has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards filed with the Borough Clerk and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Tour Times.
Thank you. Will you please have a roll call?
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Council President McNamara.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco. Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
Councilmember Aranio.
Here.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If everyone can please join me in saluting the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening's moment of silence is in honor of our neighboring community and the tragic loss that they have recently endured with the passing of Detective Timothy Kelly Jr. I can say that I actually attended and was in attendance at his police academy graduation. The reason I was there back in 2018 is because he was graduating with several of our own police academy graduates at the time. So there is a true brotherhood amongst the municipalities, and our hearts go out to all that are suffering, and we keep them all in our hearts. Thank you. We'll go on to committee reports. Councilmember McDermott.
Thank you, Mayor. So for Environmental Commission, there was a request to submit information for sustainable Jersey that was submitted, that was requested by the mayor, that was submitted over for us to maintain the status with that. And the Environmental Commission, again, is doing some amazing things. I know last month, they actually had an event with the school, the North Environmental Committee there, and it was a very successful event. One of the things that they are working with, and just to align to make sure that we're coordinating, is in November to do annual planting and/or replacement of planting plants for dunes, and also additional repair work around the existing fences. So I'm working with the borough administrator on some logistics, and also make sure that if we need engineering, we clear that through. The goal of this is not to do anything new, but to ensure that whatever we have existing there is protected and continues to grow. But there is expansion on the right side, where for the borough administrator, there's recommendations to expand so that machinery can go and clear out and dredge out the walkways on the other side. So that's another heavy project. So we'll be submitting those in September through the PO process. So that's going in for that. And again, there will be another additional action items of the events that they'll be having around the fall. Regarding KBBC, there's a few items on the agenda, and including approval for porta potties, and 2 additional porta potties during the bigger KBBC events. Just for everyone's background, I guess there was some feedback that they weren't enough bathrooms, that businesses were not, where those businesses not having really having their bathrooms being used by their customers. And also there was a request to open up the Borough Hall, and again, for sustainable reasons, this is not feasible for us to financially incur this. So KBBC has put a request to pay for 2 porta potties, 1 ADA, 1 regular at the bottom, and 1 property owner has offered to use their property and get in compliance for that. Joseph Merlin, which is on the KBC board. The other big request in there is for a gazebo. And big stipulation with this, we need to make sure, working with the borough administrative engineering, that this is a sustainable project, that this is something that we can go ahead and build up there. I think it's a good idea, but some questions. And the goal of this is to make sure that whatever object, whatever gazebo was chosen, is also something that we have KBBC take ownership and maintaining on as part of the community with us, borough. Not that it falls solely on the borough. So that's something else I think, in addition to the request, I think we need to kind of, as a governing body, ensure that KBBC is aware that, there should be some maintenance park fees associated to this that should be managed by that entity. But again, that was something that, again, as a governing body, whatever questions you have, please share that. I know the mayor and I may have different sets of information because the request kind of came to the KBC board, and then some information may have come to her. So, again, whatever questions you have, please share them, and we'll bring it back if we need to, if we need to table these or and just a reminder that we are kicking off our big event on Thursday, which is the Tina Turner and Stars event on Thursday, starting at 6. And every Friday we have the farmers market. Another thing that there is a resolution to support 3BR's craft distillery license extension. So that's something else that in support of our KBC town that we're trying to make sure that we work in partnership with the rest of our municipalities. So hopefully we'll pass that through. The other thing was if there are any concerns or issues, please make sure you communicate those. If there's anything associated to a business needing something by the borough, to make sure that those are formulated over to the mayor and myself as the KBC board members, and we'll relay that information. But I would say it's been an exciting, eventful season so far with events, and every event has had more engagement in the community. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Davidson.
Thank you. For the construction office numbers, their total UCC inspections were 152 for the month of July. Building were 84, electric 29, fire 11, mechanical 12, plumbing 16. Code enforcement inspections were 32, rental inspections were 24, house sales were 8, code enforcement violations 27, follow-up inspections were 30, property maintenance complaints 5, landlord registrations 2. We received 40 zoning applications, and there were 3 zoning violations. We had 18 fire bureau inspections and 32 smoke detector inspections. In regards to the planning board, at our last meeting, we heard, the mayor and I actually were not able to sit on it, but we heard an application for 174 Church Street, which was approved, and that'll be detailed in the minutes. That should be approved at our next meeting, and July 28th. And so far for that meeting, we have scheduled 25 East Front Street as well as 108 Broad Street. And that is my report for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President McNamara.
Thank you. Recreation. We held 2 flag lowering sessions, and for the time being, that was all that the American Legion could commit to. Movies, we've seen an increase in attendance once school let out. The Saturday morning Jungle Magic was really well attended. This weekend is the If I Ran Circus, so it's been really nice to see many folks coming to these events. They usually stop and pick up some coffee, breakfast, whatever, and I also noticed that a lot of people stop out for breakfast after some of these shows. We had the Monmouth County Nature on the Move band this past weekend at Beach Park, and they will be back again in August. The 5K, continuing to work along on that, looking to get the official confirmation for the new and different use of the Henry Hudson Trail, since the race course has been changed this year because of the work on the Broadway Bridge. Have about 70 runners signed up so far. Putting all the pieces together. We have a movie tomorrow. We'll see in the morning if it's going to be too hot, if we have to address that. Green Team. The mayor, myself, and 2 other members of the Green Team attended the Sustainable New Jersey Summit at Bellworks. It was a worthwhile event. Helps us see how other municipalities are approaching various actions. And there's various data being collected for upcoming submissions, much like Councilmember McDermott just mentioned with the Environmental Commission providing us some information. So we have a lot of stuff coming together for our submissions. The Senior Center, Skipper's been out of service with an air conditioning issue. The floors over there were taken care of, I think it was last week. And tomorrow is an Atlantic City trip. There's a hearing screening the end of August, so we'll get details out on that as it gets closer. There's a Peddler's Village Murder Mystery trip in August. And August will be Art Appreciation Month, so there'll be various things going on, different demonstrations and lessons. And then at the end of the month, there will be a display, and it will be a day that's open to the public. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rainey.
Thank you. The Keyport Parking Advisory Committee, actually, we did the final, and we submitted in this week's agenda. So I'm sure that everybody has a lot of reviewing to go through, because it might change based on what happens on Broad Street, too. The financing grants, we have our first meeting tomorrow for the month, so I have nothing to report on that. On the NPP, the gazebo LED color changing lights, the work is going to begin on August 1st. The project's going to take about 1 to 2 days to install. The municipal parking lot for smaller Main Street, the repairs are going to start. Completion date for that is going to be mid-August. Seal coating and striping, the main parking lot between Broad and Main Street is pending. New poles to identify the municipal parking lots will be purchased and installed by Madeline Sign, pending her confirmation of the borough municipal lots. The decorative street signs, phase 1 to commence soon, and we're waiting for product to be delivered to the vendor. The streetlight LED upgrades, several locations. There's one now in front of the library, so if we want to take a ride tonight to see how it's lit up. There's also behind Berluz, so if you can just take a look at it to see if you like it, how it looks. The arches for year 2, that's been moved out to later this year because there's no design actually chosen for that yet. Mini park waterfront placemaking activation program, the mini park pavers and the retaining wall pavers. NPP has shared all the quotes received to date to the borough administrator, the mayor, KBBC liaison, Secretary McDermott, and myself. We also were approved for year 3 funding. The grant period is January 1st to December 31st, 2023. Year 3 is planned for a 12-month cycle, but could go to 18 months. We've hired on, or actually it's on the agenda tonight, for Carolyn O'Row and to fill the resident stakeholder vacancy. The seaplane mural on Apollo building that was completed, repainted, and installed by the artist, no cost. The installation was completed on July 2nd.
Thank you. Councilmember McDermott.
Thank you. First, on behalf of Keyport Mayor and Council, we'd like to wish Chief Leggett a speedy recovery, and we keep him in our thoughts after this weekend. Fire calls, we had 34 for the month of June. The Fireman's Fair is August 2nd to the 6th. For first aid, we had 13 calls for the month of June. And with the high temp, just stay hydrated and keep an eye on your safety, because it's bad. And then for Board of Health, we collected $2,554. For community register collected $214. That is all.
Thank you. Our mayor's report and updates regarding the Library Board of Trustees, the Access Navigator program that Keyport was selected for as one of the few municipalities in New Jersey that did receive this grant opportunity. Throughout the month of August, every Thursday, they'll be providing basic computer training. So if you know anyone
that is looking to have their computer skills upgraded or enhanced, or even if they're new to computers, maybe they recently retired and are looking for a new hobby or a way to surf the internet, and or even be able to go on the library website to download books and so forth, or movies. So I encourage everyone to help spread that word. We are grateful for that grant. We're hoping that it will be extended further, but as of now, I believe it concludes in September. There have been several requests from the borough to our JIF to see if they would consider extending our coverage or providing a rider or an umbrella over to carry over to the Friends of the Library organization, because their state approval for them to exist as a 501(c) is written such that they are only allowed to raise funds for the Keyport Library and nothing else. And since the library is in our JIF, we have been asking if that insurance, even if they pay for it, but as Jay can attest, after numerous and countless requests, we cannot get confirmation on that. So they are looking into seeing if they can, different policies that they'll be able to get on their own. So that way they can go back to doing some of their fundraising stuff. Mayor's Wellness Campaign, the Monday Movement motivational tips are now posted every Monday, and they'll be on the social media page of the Keyport Mayor's Wellness Campaign. Social media pages, there's an Instagram and a Facebook page, and I'd like to give a shout out to one of the committee members, Janet Gallo, who designed all of them and came up with the wording for them. So they'll be posted every Monday through the month of August, so July and August. And then we're working on some other things that we can do with that whole committee. We have a teleconference with the Mayor's Wellness Campaign organization, so to speak, which is underneath the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute. So there's a webinar tomorrow that I'll be participating in. A couple other updates in addition to Councilmember McDermott's KBC updates. We were informed at this last week's meeting that although the audit was due a few months ago, I believe they're going out to RFP this week to hire an auditor. There are a couple people working on the bylaw revisions. One is Mr. Weiler, and he's working with the attorney of KBC. So we're hoping that that will be turned over soon, and then council can review them as well. The car show was a success, as Councilmember McDermott reported. Mother Nature definitely helped out a lot. There were a couple of things. They did go over on the amount of vehicles, which helped their fundraiser, which was great. But there were definitely some other things that I learned about after the KBBC meeting that I wasn't sure if that's why the roads weren't open in time or not, because they only had approval to 8 o'clock with the roads open up by 9. But apparently they extended the band to keep playing. So I've expressed that it can't really happen because we weren't prepared for overtime. So on that. So, but it's great to see people having fun, but we just have to make sure we communicate and keep that dialogue open. And Jaya had sent the request over about the porta potties for the larger scale events. As Councilmember McDermott mentioned, Mr. Merla and Ken Schwartz are offering that they be located at the base on this parking lot side of their newly installed fence. But I didn't know if they need any type of permission from upstairs or not.
It was reviewed by the code office, and there's no permits or other review received.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I'd just like to give a shout out to Recreation Committee and Councilmember McNamara for really working hard this year to come up with some new initiatives through the recreation program to provide to our constituents, like the puppet show, the nature on the bay, all those types of things. And I know you're working on the numbers for the mini summer camps, which also is a whole new shift on recreation opportunities. So kudos to Recreation Committee for getting those things done. Before we open it to the public, are there any items on the agenda that council members are going to be asking to have pulled or tabled or any clarification on first? Councilmember McDermott?
So in the payment of bills for RT2-171, page 10, there's an easy pass violation, so typically those can be reversed. I'm not sure, are we looking to reverse those?
Yeah, that had been, that was an issue through the fire department, and that had to do with a non-participating bridge over the Delaware River. So it was not capable of being corrected through the regular path.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Councilman Davidson?
I just, for, when I get to communications, can we pull communications, 1 and 3 for additional discussion?
Anyone else? Councilman Capone?
Interglobe communications on page 7 for 719 for 2300. Jay, do you know what that is?
I'm sorry, which page number?
Page 7 for the 719. 22-01319 for 2301. Says Interglobe Communications.
Yes, Interglobe is the, our monthly telephone charges for the phone lines that are provided. Interglobe is our provider, is in place of Verizon.
Is that POE? Is that a POE, our POE system?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar.
Power over Internet? Power over Internet?
Yes, most of our phone lines are voice over internet service, but these are the actual lines coming in.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Seeing no other hands, can I have a motion to open to the public for agenda items only?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members of the public have questions regarding the agenda items? Mr. Morello?
John Morello, 34 Broad Street. On resolution 2022-175, the appointment of Dylan Borders, the Clean Communities program, it's not even in effect, is it? I mean, are we saying we're reinstituting it? Have we been advised we're getting money to fund it?
Yes, the Clean Communities funding happens on a July 1 basis, and we did receive in late June that the funding has been approved for the current year.
That's excellent. And the other thing is the ordinance introduction for amending Broad Street traffic regulations. Will that have an effect on what happens under unfinished business with the Broad Street one-way decision? Or is it apples and oranges?
No, the ordinance is part and parcel to the discussion of Broad Street.
It is. So they do go both together?
Yes.
All right.
And actually, the discussion I think that will take place is that there's been suggestions to not proceed with the one-way and just do the changes in parking and crosswalk in place of.
And that's what the ordinance spells out. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Mr. Lee?
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. On resolution 2022-174, which is the stakeholder to the NPP team. Carolyn, could you give a little bit of, is she a business owner? What's her background?
This is to fill the resident appointment, since Michelle Knox put a letter of resignation in, who was the resident appointment for.
So this is a resident appointment. Is she involved in any activities in town?
I don't know whether she's involved in any activity, so to speak, but I mean, she is a resident that participates in many things that take place in Keyport, and she has a design background, and I don't have her application right in front of me, but
Resolution 2022-176, which is the APC Guidelines, which you're reinforcing. What motivates the generation of that resolution?
sure. So recently, not through legislation, the ABC developed a new set of rules that went into effect on July 1st for breweries, which is now limiting to some of the things that they were previously allowed to do. It does not carry over to distilleries at this point in time, but out of hesitation and maybe trying to be proactive, I guess is the right word, to let ABC know that we're in favor of how the distillery is currently operating. We wish for it not to have the same reductions of opportunities that they're enforcing onto breweries at this point in time.
So you're differentiating breweries from distilleries, huh?
So that is not by our design. The way the state issued the breweries type of licenses, distilleries falls under that bracket in certain components, but not all components. So that's why when they vote these new rules, they only apply to breweries currently. They do not currently apply to distilleries, but the distilleries throughout New Jersey are, a little concerned that they may then extend it over to distilleries. So it's a letter of support to that we feel the way the distillery is currently operating is beneficial, not just to the municipality, but to other businesses, because we're able to order food from other businesses local to be brought into there, and they provide entertainment, and then people may leave there and go to the eateries that are local. So to have all of that come to a cease and a halt isn't really the design that would be beneficial to the whole area.
Right, so this is better integration into the town than more restrictive rules. The letter number 3, approval of the 12 by 10 or 14 gazebo. I just mentioned in the past there was a proposal to get a gazebo there, and it wasn't favored because of the impact it has on the view. And that's just a really outstanding view. People driving down the street, walking down the sidewalk, and to have it impacted by a gazebo. I really ask the council to think about that, and especially in light of the fact that we didn't approve one in the past. The letter number 6, communications for 156 West Front Street, which I believe is the old Pedestrian Marina, that they're going to start to evaluate the site contamination. You just have it listed as receipt and file. Are you going to take any action to forward it to the Environmental Commission to have them monitor it? And I ask you to do more than just receipt and file it. That this become an action item for the Environmental Commission to report back to council on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Okay.
Albert J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council.
Good evening.
Okay, resolution 2022-172. Can you all more or less explain how it came about?
Sure, Jay, do you want to explain why we're going that route?
Yes, this is for equipment for the first aid squad that was approved or funded as part of our municipal budget. It is being purchased under a cooperative purchasing alliance, which allows us to forego the necessity for formal bids based on the volume or the dollar amount involved. So when you use that cooperative pricing program, requires that there be a resolution authorized by the governing body to participate and make that purchase.
Okay, is this brand new equipment and stuff?
It is. This is new equipment. Let me just make sure we're doing 2 of these. So this is the what was identified as part of the budget request from the first aid for a power cut or power stretcher.
Well, it's beneficial, cost to the taxpayer and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it'll be beneficial to the volunteers of the first aid that they don't have to keep picking up cots too, that it'll be a manual release and lift on it. Any other members of the public? Have a motion to close the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Pacheco, would you like to give your report?
Oh, sure. Hold on. Quick and brief. Excuse me, sorry I was late, stuck in traffic. Municipal Alliance Committee, the Municipal Alliance met last week. We discussed further leadership, install training and programming in the schools for next year. We also discussed a possible adult fishing tournament that actually came up through the Harbor Commission, through the community year. So that's something that we would try to put together for next year. We also discussed at length some of the Municipal Alliance concerns about Candace in the downtown area, and I thought, I don't see her, the coordinator would like to come and speak. I thought she might be here tonight, but I haven't seen any, so she'll probably come to the next meeting. Harbor, I can't remember her handwriting. We had a small meeting in Harbor Commission. We did discuss the snapper contest and kind of went through the punch list of what needs to still be done for that. There were concerns regarding the kiosk in particular. We wanted to just, I can't read my own handwriting, I'm sorry. In particular, there was signage, there's missing signage about the instructions. Also, we had some questions about just, and I was going to try to get in touch with you, Chief, but that's not how my life goes today, about maybe some parking enforcement there as well. I don't think that there's a large problem, but it certainly was a concern for Harbor Commission. And we wanted to also recommend that perhaps the DPW could work together, maybe in a group of two, or maybe to remove the stones, because it was noted that he was doing it alone. It seems to be taking a lot longer. And that's actually it. I've been in meetings all day. I apologize again for being late. I tried.
Thank you. Regarding consent agenda, did anyone have any questions?
I need to abstain from one. Do we have to pull it, or do I just abstain when I go? Okay, how to do that.
For 173?
173, is it?
So we'll pull that for a separate vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any members have any questions on resolutions? If not, can I have a motion to approve R 2022-170 through R 2022-176 with the exception of R 2022-173?
Motion. Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember, excuse me, Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Aranio.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve R 2022-173?
Motion.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Abstain, but good job getting it done.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Aranio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Pacheco, it's not required, it's not necessary, but would you like it reflected in the minutes as to why you abstained?
Oh yeah, I work for the IULE, so it was recommended that I abstain from Local 68 negotiations.
Next, we have introduction of ordinances. Number 1, ordinance establishing salaries and wages for designated employees. The clerk will read that by title, please.
This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, establishing salaries and wages for designated employees in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement between the Borough of Keyport and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 68, 68A, 68B, ALFCIO.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Oh, there, hold on a second before the
Why
motion
not?
goes on hand.
Do I have to abstain from this too? Okay. Thank you. sorry, I wasn't
That's
100% sure.
Sorry,
She motioned first.
so can we re-motion? Okay,
Motion.
thank you.
Second.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pacheco.
Abstain.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Aranio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for a public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain?
Abstain, sorry. I'm not used to it.
Second ordinance introduction, we have amending Broad Street traffic regulations. Is there any discussion before we read this for an introduction?
Mayor, just if I may, I distributed a larger scale version of the map that was prepared by the borough engineer, reflecting the discussion and recommendation of the committee that was reviewing the Broad Street one-way concept. This is, I think, a little bit easier to understand. Trevor is here to answer any questions, but essentially what is being proposed is that the starting at the intersection of East Front and West Front Street and Broad Street, what is proposed is the elimination of parking on the west side of the street, allowing the travel lanes to be shifted slightly to provide for a what has been described as a safer driving experience in that section of Broad Street. And that prohibited parking on the west side would extend from the intersection down to the entrance to the municipal parking lot. And in that location, it's been proposed that there be a mid-block crosswalk established to provide for pedestrian crossings from the area of the parking lot to the east side of the street. As indicated in the diagram, there are a couple of other changes involving the parking on the east side of the street, specifically eliminating one parking space near the intersection of Broad with East Front, providing for better maneuverability and turning for those vehicles that are turning onto East Front Street. There's also proposed the addition of parking spaces in front of what previously had been the funeral home, which was a no parking designated area. And then in the location immediately adjacent to the proposed crosswalk, there would also be 3 parking spaces eliminated there to provide for both the addition of the crosswalk as well as visibility on either side of the crosswalk on that side of the street.
Councilmember Davidson?
Thank you. So the line shift, is that gonna cause any, so the line shift is only gonna be in that one section, so as soon as we're driving down Broad, there's gonna be a little swheelie where we're gonna have to shift lanes to, because this doesn't go all the way to Maple, it stops right in this proposed area, so what does that shift look like when, is it nominal? I'm assuming because it's a small street, it's pretty small anyway, so it's a nominal shift that's not really gonna affect the drivers.
There will be a nominal shift, and it's kind of hard to tell in the sketch, but we could look at it out in the field. The road actually does curve towards the west side of the street. So when you look at it, when you shift the center line a couple of feet to the west, it's actually in line with the double yellow stripe being further to the south. You're looking down the road. So it is difficult to see on here, but it would be a minor taper in the center line. It won't be a significant, if you're driving and all of a sudden you have to swerve at the last minute to maintain the lane. Just one more thing to add too, sorry to interrupt, a follow-up to that question is, right now it's about 32.5 feet from curb line to curb line. So if you have 2 parallel parking spaces at 8 feet each, that leaves you with a 16-foot travel way for two-way traffic. Put it into perspective, a typical parking space is 9 feet wide, so you're left with an 8-foot wide travel way in each direction. Typically, the minimum you'd like to see is about 11 feet, so we're about 6 feet short to have two-way traffic in that section. And we did take a look at it on Thursday, and pretty much every single driver, as they're driving down the street, is crossing over the double yellow line to go get to the traffic signal. So people are literally waiting for people to pass them, and then they're going. It's kind of like a chicken or the egg, like who's going to go first, and it's very difficult for two cars to travel through there without stopping and waiting for someone else to pass. So that was, and again, another justification just to eliminate the parking on one side. That will give you either two 12-foot lanes or an 11-foot lane and a 13-foot lane, which is obviously much better for two-way traffic.
Was there any conversation, I'm sorry, Jay, you may have said the crosswalk walk going where it is, why is it proposed there, not on the other side by Old Glory?
Yeah, I will tell you that both locations were reviewed. I'll defer to Trevor as far as the benefits of this location versus the other side of the driveway.
Yes, we did look at that, and there's a couple issues there. The diner has outdoor seating, and there's only about 4 or 5 feet from the out. They have a little called barricade between the outdoor seating and the curb, so to put the ramp there, you probably would be affecting the outdoor seating for the diner. There's also a parking space right there, right on the edge of, or right on the south side of the exit from the municipal parking lot. And we did reserve a couple large-sized trucks that make a right-hand turn out of there, and they're literally driving over the depressed curb there. So I think if we put the curb ramp there, you're going to have trucks constantly driving over that, and it's not as much of an issue if they're going left, but trucks typically aren't going left, they're typically going right to get back to the highway. So I think just based on those two scenarios, it's best on the north side of the driveway.
I guess my only other comment that I guess we're all prepared, and I know we had a minor discussion about it being one way, so we've then had now we're shifting this way and we're losing parking after we've done an extensive parking study. Just curious, it just seems very rushed. I know it seems very well thought out by everybody involved as well, but it just seems like pretty rushed to throw it out there for the shift, but I can't argue with the points that you made. That makes sense.
Just one more thing, there's a note on here about that last parking space on the east side of the street. So because that is a traffic signal, the restriction for parking is actually from the crosswalk, not from the stop sign. So that space is 25 feet from the crosswalk, so technically it is a legal space. But again, with the larger size trucks making a right-hand turn onto East Front Street, it is very tight at that location, especially if someone is in the the westbound lane on East Front Street. For a truck to make that right-hand turn, they do come very close to that car. If there is a car parked there making that right-hand turn. So that was another consideration for eliminating that one space there, but technically it is a legal space. It's just not in the best location.
And then, sorry, last question. So the crosswalk being it's brand new and it's mid-street and now the lanes are wider, people can be driving a little bit faster. Was proposed to really make that an obvious crosswalk? Or is it just the white stripes?
So we would definitely have pedestrian signs there, and then we could also have a discussion about putting the solar lighted or solar push buttons there if we want to, just to draw more attention to that. Chief and I also discussed looking to see if we can put yield markings adjacent to the crosswalk so that it's not just the crosswalk, it would be yield signs. If we're going to go through this, I just have to check the MUTCD to make sure that that's a legal marking that we can put there. But there are definitely things we can do with that mid-block crosswalk to make it more obvious when you're driving.
Thank you.
I know this diagram is only for Broad up to Old Glory, but is there discussion with the county as well that at 3rd and Broad that there'll be a crosswalk added there?
We did not discuss that with the county. I think if that's at the intersection, that would be a legal process.
I know it doesn't have to be part of the ordinance because it's already an intersection, but if there could be one added there to get across Broad Street at 3rd, either side, either next to Mist or Shine or next or by 108 Broad, either one. There's nothing there for people to see to get across, either a marking or an indicator for pedestrian. And then my other question is it too much to do the entire width of the Old Glory entrance to be a crosswalk and bars all the way across?
Look into that. So you're saying where the driveway is, make that entire thing?
Like a major, like let people know, like we're about pedestrians and that that's a heavily traveled pedestrian area. But then you're gonna end up losing another spot, so the businesses may not want that, because then they'll lose more parking spaces.
I guess if we do look at that, we would probably lose possibly 4 more parking spaces there, because you would probably lose the 3 that are in front of the diner, and then you lose the 1 that's in front of Old Road. You have to limit parking 25 feet in the crosswalk.
Okay.
But we definitely take a look at that and see how.
And then my other request will be if, when we have the public hearing, can we do a 200-foot list so the businesses are aware that those parking spaces are being supposed to be removed. And then the dialogue from the day. Councilmember McNamara.
So I understand that it's quick, and I think part of that was because the county's going to be paving the road, right? So we just wanted to make sure anything we wanted to get done, got figured out before they did all that. And I do understand the loss of spots. Did I see something that there was no parking in front of the Fire Museum, but that was looking to be made into some parking? Or am I?
That's not done by
making
ordinance.
something up in my head?
It's not done by
Discuss that
ordinance.
in the subcommittee.
So that actually just got painted randomly, that was never done by ordinance. That was not, I believe that's what the parking committee found as well.
Okay, so that can be parking.
That
So we
that will be
actually
parking
cleared
when they
up.
redo the road.
So that helps with a little of this, losing some of the other ones that would pick up ones that we eliminated.
Also gained 2 spots on the other side.
Yeah, there's loss, but there's gain too.
And then again, I would have been an issue of mine for a while. There's no way to cross Broad Street by the library. It's just really a rough one. So some sort of crosswalk there, even though that's not part of the ordinance, I think, when all this is done, that should be included. That's it, thank you.
I just want to add some dialogue. One of the other reasons why the one-way was not considered, after discussions with the committee and with the chief, Councilwoman Pacheco, and the other thing is, if you really wanted to make this effective as a one-way, you actually have to do it across all the way up to Broad Street, and the little disrupting traffic in a one-way in the middle of our major throughway was a big concern. And even if we wanted to extend out all the way up to Broadway, that's just, we have to work with the school, because that's a major drop-off point. There's a lot of other logistics. And this is the most effective way to ensure we get pedestrian safety, and also allow commercial traffic to go through as they need to. That includes boats, trucks, whatever comes through here. Two big vehicles, that most of our vehicles are not that small anymore. So this is the best alternative solution to that.
There is no other dialogue by the dais. Is there a motion to introduce?
Second.
Since there's a motion on the floor, I would also request to make sure that those areas are notified of the public hearing. So is there a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pacheco?
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott?
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson?
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara?
Yes.
Councilmember Aronio?
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have communications by consent. Items number 1 and 3 are going to be, oh, sorry, I'm like, one more time. Motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstain? Thank you. I don't know why every time I'm in check, I miss that one. Sorry. Communications by consent. Is there any dialogue on 2, 4, 5, or 6?
Just for number 2, so it seems that that's going to be embedded within the property that is listed. Yeah. I just want to check to about it. And there are no concerns with public safety.
Social fabric permit.
We reviewed it. We have reviewed it, we looked in the cost system and formally.
Okay.
So if there's no other dialogue, is there an approval, motion to approve 2, 4, 5, and 6 on communications for approval and receipt and file?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Aronio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you. There's a request to hear items 1 and 3 separately, so we'll go with number 1 first.
Thank you. My concern with that is that unfortunately due to the waiver of fees, I'm not in favor of the waiver of fees. For that.
Couldn't hear.
That I'm not in favor of the waiver of fees for communication number 1.
Okay. If there's any other further dialogue on that, there can be a motion to with it or without the waiver of fees. I don't even know if you can waive the fees, so it's not an emergency service. So if you want, you can, I guess you can going back with an alternate date, so that part I do want on record. So if that's your motion, you can motion to approve it that way. And then you can see if that carries.
I can motion to approve communication number 1 without the waiver of fees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Aronio.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Then we have number 3, which is a request from KBC to install a 12 by 14 gazebo on the top of the landing of the mini park, which would be closer to 55 West Front Street. It would not be in the middle. There is a diagram in your packet that was submitted, as well as the proposal for who would be installing it. I don't know that this has gone for engineer approval or not, but the purpose of the request are for events such as different things, whether it's Santa Claus, so that way Santa Claus could be under there. On Sundays, they have music on the bay, they could be under there. It could be the check-in tent for some of the events that KBBC puts on. But I do know that we have 2 other, and I've mentioned this in the KBBC meetings, that there are 2 other gazebos already in the municipality, that there's no sustainability plan for maintaining them. One's in dire straits of disrepair, as Councilmember Aronio and I saw this weekend. So you're 100% right in bringing up that concern, that it's going to be one more thing the borough has to maintain. So perhaps there could be a use agreement that they ask them to make sure they maintain it, whether it's the wood has to be stained every year or what have you. I'm not sure. I'm not a material expert on that type of stuff, but Jay, what is your thought on that?
Well, first of all, Mayor, just to answer your question, there has been no review of this beyond, the cursory review for submission, as has been mentioned in the public comment section of the meeting. This would be I'll call it permanent installation, so I think the threshold question is whether conceptually this is something the council wants to move forward on in terms of the view that had been mentioned previously. And if there's consensus to move forward, then we'll do, we'll have the engineer review it and make certain that it would be constructed in accordance with whatever concerns there would be for the public use of this facility.
So is there a motion to approve item number 3?
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No motion. I just have a couple other, if that's okay. I know you said what it would be used for music and all the other things, and all that is a great spot to have a permanent space for events. However, I'm concerned, as Mr. Lane brought up, with the impact on the view. I understand it's closer to 55, and that's great, but it's a fairly substantial structure that is going to be permanent. I think it does affect us when we come up and down the streets either way. And then the signage that's shown on the drawing is that permanent signage, or is that signage that's just going to be put up when there's an event?
My understanding is that's for when it's an event.
So if there's no event, there'll be no signage on.
You can say that if you wanted to, if you move forward with it.
And then I guess my other, and it's probably answered, I'm just wondering, is the need really so significant for the KBDC to have this structure that it needs to be permanent and needs to be put in the mini park? Like, is it really
So,
that?
I don't know that I could use it for I know I don't get a vote in this, but I can give you my opinion. I can see it both ways. Obviously, you know, I'm always in favor of advocating for us having a sustainability plan in the borough for anything moving forward. But at the same point, the mini park has become popular and we're well aware of that. And the one that hosts the most events in that mini park is KBBC. And the KBBC does not have an executive director yet, still, but they are a board of volunteers. And for every event they put on, they have to put up a tent for a check-in table, for what have you. So I think it's pretty laborious for them to have to be putting up tents, that if it is a windy event, a windy day that day, the chances of it blowing over or just the taking it up and taking it down, the manpower alone, whether I agree or I disagree that I feel they should have staff that does that, that's not where we're at. So I can see both sides of the fence on this. I can see where it's another item that the borough's gonna, you know, be called out on Facebook if something goes wrong with it or if someone writes graffiti on it and maintenance and what have you. I can see all of that part. And usually I'm a hard no on adding more responsibility to the borough of maintenance. But I also know firsthand the laborious part of them putting up tents for every event. And we're trying to draw it to be more of a professional look, right? So what's more professional? A table under something that engineer approving is approved is more professional and permanent, or a continuous tent with banners that blow over. So I see both sides, but I don't know if that really answered your question or not, but I'm just giving you two different perspectives.
Thank you.
Councilmember Checo?
Just a quick question. I mean, I feel like we table something every week when it comes to the communications, but is it worth waiting until we get the plan about how it will be maintained? Because I understand the structures that are already in place, but this is a new structure, so maybe going forward, we should have those steps for the borough. Obviously, I've had different opinions about structures that are in place, but this will be something new. It might be worth reading that, because I kind of like the idea, I just have a concern about maintenance 5-10 years from now. Get in the same position we seem to always be getting in.
Put it in the contract.
That's all.
Councilmember McNamara?
My concern is when I was over at the mini park area for the Jungle Magic Show 2 weeks ago, there's a significant amount of loose pavers. You've mentioned something about pavers. Is that the mini park? Because to me, to put permanent structure on a surface that is compromised already, I have concerns. So I would need to know what the shoring up is of what's already there before we go and put something on, or doing that disturbs more of the base. I mean, apparently there's somebody who fell down steps when we were there because the pavers were loose, and then when we were there the other day, there were a couple of them that were loose too. So that, you know, would be a concern for me, that we don't put something up without first shoring things up.
So it might benefit to table it until we have all that information.
I think the question that Jay is saying is, we actually have to, we could table it, but with the action that the borough look into it, to see what the feasibility, and just to be full transparency, the license agreement was never brought up to, we didn't bring this up to KBBC, that's another thing. Do they want to, is there allowance that KBBC is going to be aware, but open to this? I don't see an issue, but again, we'll want 2 members and whatever 2 others. So that's another action item that needs to be brought back to KBBC if that's something that the governing body wants to ensure that this is sustainably, support structure and sustainability plan, and a license agreement or whatever it is.
So Jay, what do you propose?
I would recommend that if the consensus of the council is to move forward, that it be approved on a conceptual basis, pending review by the engineer.
And then with a license agreement to follow that.
That would make sense as well. You know, again, the proposal does not indicate, my impression was that this would be installed and become the borough's responsibility in perpetuity, but if there's an issue of whether this is tied to a requirement for either maintenance or that, you know, however, whatever conditions the council wishes to place on that conceptual design, we can work out the details.
So we would need a motion from the governing body to have an engineer review? Is that what you want?
Yes. I mean, again, technically under the, as I understand the ordinance establishing the KBBC, any improvements that are done to public facilities require a formal authorization from the Borough Council and review by the engineer.
Okay, so.
I'm sorry, so the motion would be to approve it and then pending?
Absolutely.
And then if it all goes through and the engineer says it's okay, then it would be constructed and...
Well, we'll come back to the council for formal authorization.
So we would have another chance to discuss once we hear what the engineer says.
Correct.
So basically, I guess the motion is to advance it to engineer review.
Motion.
Second. I think you're trying to say.
Can I have a roll call, please, Michelle?
Councilmember Pacheco.
Sorry, I was Lewis. Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
No.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Aranio.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have reports. We have municipal clerk's report for June 2022, tax, water, sewer collectors report for June 2022, Board of Health treasurer's report for June 2022, building department monthly report for June 2022, municipal court monthly report for June 2022. Next, we have the Keyport Parking Advisory Committee final report dated July 12, 2022. I'd like to take a moment to go on record and thank Mr. Kelsey for his time and due diligence as a volunteer that led these efforts, and for the council members and members of the business community that served on that committee. I do want to, however, say that I do think that it's a little awkward that we received that and then now we're receiving a completely different revised plan for Broad Street. So I also don't know if the council members have time to. So if you're receiving this, does that confirm that all the council members read the entire parking committee report front to back? And is there commentary? Did anyone follow up with Mr. Kelsey? Is there dialogue? Is that something we want to table to the next meeting and give more time for a further review by everybody with maybe commentary requested at the next meeting so that Mr. Kelsey knows people's feedback? I'd hate to see that he put that much time into it and then it just gets filed in a draw.
That's fine. I don't know what motion sounds like, but.
Motion to table. I make motion to table.
Okay, so is there a motion, just a parking report, correct?
Yes.
With commentary back from the council members at the next meeting, please? Okay, so that's your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just let the clerk get that on record. Hold on a second. Is there a roll call for that, please?
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
And Councilmember Aranio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to receive and file reports number 1 through 5?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And no we're abstaining. Next, we have new business.
Nothing there.
Actually, the only thing I'll just go on record is saying that I appreciate all the efforts by Chief Torres with NJ. We had swipe card access system in this building that had not been serviced or maintained for probably over a decade. So it required a complete overhaul and an extreme amount of hours by the chief to interview and select a company to get that implemented, to get it fixed and operational. So thank you for all your time that you put into that. I know that the next week or so they're still installing some stuff, so if there's any challenges with cards, just follow up with Jay and that'll get all straightened out. So unfinished business. We have Broad Street one way on here. I'm guessing that that's a new point at this point, if that's the direction we're going, since there was an introduction taking place tonight anyway, on the other topic. So next we'll go on to dais updates. Chief Torres, do you have any updates?
Yes, I have a couple minor things. Since Monday, 6/27, patrols have still been concentrating on the new County Road 25-mile-per-hour speed limit signs. To date, there are 200 motor vehicle stops and over 170 summonses issued during the first part of July. The doors, as you said, the doors have been newly installed. Key cards are being issued and distributed through Mr. Delaney. Another small meeting, we had a meeting on the concealed carry permits. We all know that this is here. We are in talks with the state as well as tomorrow's with the state. Today was with the county, seeking further guidance because there is a little bit of miscommunication within the new rule. So we're just seeking some further guidance, but we are accepting applications and holding so we get just some further guidance.
Actually, Jay, do we have an update on when we're going to do another review of the police headquarters, since they have an extended area of flooding from the ceiling this weekend and the rain event on Saturday? Is there any time frame on when that's going to be reviewed?
That has been budgeted for this year, and we expect that will be ready for the project.
Would it be the 20th year?
Michelle, do you have any updates?
No, don't make sense.
Who's signing?
Closed session.
Jay?
Nothing there.
Trevor?
Mayor. The Broad Street concrete project that was awarded at the last council meeting is going to start up within the next 2 weeks. They should be done by Labor Day. It will be done by Labor Day. The county is going to be coming in after that and paving Broad Street, the entire length through the borough. That work will be done at night. I don't have the exact schedule for that, but they will let us know as that date gets closer. So that'll be some point after Labor Day. I also reached out to the DOT for a couple items on the Ridge over Route 35 project. There's a no-turn on red sign that was installed a little bit too far out of the way. Traffic signals we had a question on, and I also questioned them about the lane striping on the north side of Route 35. That was never put back in when they did paving. Yet to hear back from them, so I'll continue to follow up with them on that. As far as Church Street and Beer Street, I walked out with a contractor on Thursday. We marked out the main concrete work that needs to be done out there. The utility pole was finally removed in front of Drew's a couple weeks ago, so the concrete work will be wrapped up. And the paving for that will be done within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So by the end of August, we should have Church Street and Beer Street completely wrapped up. I also spoke to the county regarding the striping project that they just received bids on that. They did say that they're going to prioritize First Street to get the no passing zone striped on First Street. So they did say by the summer that will get done. Again, don't have an exact date, but they did say in the summer. So hopefully by the August meeting, I'll have it's not done yet. I'll have a more precise date on that. I think that's all I have at this point.
And the 25-mile-an-hour signs were added to Maple Place and Green Grove between 4th and...
I drove, Maple looks like it's completely done. Green Grove, I think they have 1 or 2 signs that may be left, but hopefully, I think they're out there today. Hopefully tomorrow they should be out there.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to open to the public with a maximum of 5 minutes per person. A reminder that this is comment section only. This is not question and answer or complete dialogue.
Motion second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Kelsey?
Andrew Kelsey, 29 St. Peter's Place, Broad Street. I don't know how the borough can have a policy of pedestrian safety and widen the lanes of Broad Street to make cars, allow cars to drive faster. I really don't understand it. I mean, so many complaints about speeding in the borough, a lot of head banging against the wall of what can be done to actually slow cars down, and we have something that works. By happenstance on Broad Street, real narrow lanes, and cars parked along each side. And that navigation of cars stop before each other, that slows the traffic. People don't want to be in a place, if you want people to come someplace, you don't design it for cars, you design it for people. And fast traffic is not a place for people. So I said it last meeting, I'll say it again, I'll say it the next meeting. It makes no sense. The gazebo, is that planned to be at the top of the park? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Any thoughts on the Christmas tree? On where that goes after the gazebo?
The gazebo would be to the left, closer to.
So it's not the whole thing?
No, it's towards the building.
All right, so on the top of gazebo and maintenance, it hasn't gone well for the borough. We've got the benches, issues with that being maintained by the people that said they were going to maintain them. Trash cans are an issue. The rain gardens were never maintained by the people that were supposed to maintain them. This is a very transient body of people. People come and go, nobody remembers what's going on. I'm very hard about that. I advise against it because it just doesn't have any looked at until the borough really is spinning like a top and staying on top of things and able to fix things. I don't think that's a good idea. Not to say it's not going to be a nice thing to have. It's just, the reality of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morello?
John Morello, 34 Broad Street. Just to echo Mr. Kelsey's comments regarding Broad Street, pedestrian safety is very important within the borough of Keyport. I urge each and one of you to go sit in front of 34 Broad Street, it's a beautiful bench in front of our building, and just stay there for an hour. Enforcement is the key to good pedestrian safety, as it is speeding. I watch every night cars blow that red light. So if people aren't paying attention to a light, let's just pray that when someone's walking across the street, they're paying attention to that. And I mean it. Go up there and look before you vote for this ordinance, because I'll tell you right now, people have a one-track mind. A month ago, same 4 motorcycles come by every night, popping wheelies, going up and down the hill. Well, it finally happened. Overturned it, hit a parked car, got up, took off. I'm telling you, people are not paying attention to the lights. Let's hope they're paying attention to crosswalks. Second is Beach Park. I know the council said that Union Beach won't be coming in this year to do the beach sweep cleanup. Is there anything planned for the borough to have that beach cleaned? Is there another county that we can team up with that may have the proper equipment to do a sweep, or can we get a hold of the county? It's just food for thought. Third is the street sweeper. The mayor mentioned at the last meeting or the meeting before, the sweeper will be out and about in the business district. Are we going back to a schedule for the whole town-wide? If you know.
I asked that same question this week. I don't have
Okay. I appreciate that. The fourth thing is, I know the borough's been hot on the signs on borough property, advertising on the businesses on other people's property. And at first, I didn't think it was a good idea. But then it seems like it's messy and it's a nuisance. But the borough has had a sign on borough property since last October on borough property in Fireman's Park, advertising for a business, Scenic View. It's been there since last October. It's still there tonight. So I think we need a better job of housekeeping. And my last comment is, Mayor, I know we disagree a lot on things, but one thing I want to applaud you. 2 weeks ago, you gave a moment of silence for Ed Berlew. Ed Berlew was a very good guy for his town, and he did a lot for his town. And for me to read on Facebook someone saying that thankfully Keyport makes progress one funeral at a time was disgusting and ludicrous. And I applaud the efforts that you put forward for Ed. Thank you.
Thank you. I obviously do not follow that page, but many people did forward.
It was
the
screenshot to me
comments.
because I won't give him the decency of.
Correct. And this is why I continually post and try and encourage people to follow actual municipal pages as opposed to chatter pages. I believe that comment was also put onto my page, which I was not allowed to remove, but I guess the poster removed it. That Fred was less than disheartening, in my opinion, especially since the moment of silence was acknowledged as a former KBA board member. I serve on the KBBC myself, and whether there was difference of opinions, difference of behavior, he's not here to defend himself. And additionally, he has an extensive amount of family members that are still living, and usually that's who you're regarding when you attend a funeral or issue a moment of silence. It's on behalf of the survivors as well. And he has employed countless numbers of residents in the borough of Keyport and the many businesses that he owned. So I am not here, the moment of silence is not in recognition of people's previous opinions or his past behavior. It is in honor of what he did do for Keyport.
And I applaud that because you were right.
George Walling, 54 2nd Street. Under communication, Mr. Lane asked you for number 6 not to receive and file. Any reason why we didn't do that?
We would automatically still receive and file it. It was just that council member that found environmental would then bring that communication back to environmental, the bylaw.
I didn't hear that in the instructions. It was basically receive and file on my agenda. So is that what's going to happen then?
That would be the normal process. Anything that's received and filed, whatever council fees. I didn't say it always happened, but that is supposed to be the
I was going to
process.
say that I understand. Can I ask Trevor a question, or do I gotta ask you the question? Ask the Trevor.
You can ask me.
Okay. Hydrant on First Street by Atlantic.
The one that was replaced,
Sure.
the one that was recently replaced that has to be fixed and adjusted.
Right. Where are we at with that?
I believe we're still waiting for the razor piece on that, and then when they do the final work on Church Street, that will all be done at the same time in the project. Am I correct, Trevor?
That's correct. It's one of the things that I walked with the contractor on Thursday, so that'll be part of their final process work.
So it is still in the.
Okay. I didn't hear it in Trevor's report when he said it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Purcell?
Donna Purcell, 396 Maple Place. I just have a comment regarding the no turn on red sign at the base of the overpass, because that's new. There's already backed up traffic there. Was that a recommendation by the county to do that? Because as I said, you're already backed up now, and with that no turn on red, it's a disaster over there. People are going straight. There are tons of people turning on red because I think it's new.
You're talking about the base of the bridge, right, to go onto Matthew?
Correct. Onto the bit to make the turn onto Mag.
Correct. So, yes, there actually was a request for that. There's been a long-standing request for that no turn on red for the residents that live on May and the other part of Washington in the back. Because they can't, when they're coming up Broadway and they're trying to turn, when they're coming up Maple and they're in the turning lane, their turning lane is really for May, but people think their turning lane is to come up the bridge. So there's been numerous accidents of people trying to turn onto May and post calls. So there has been a request for them to be able to turn onto.
Understood. I think it was just bad timing because, you know, it's just ridiculous over there. Anyway, regarding the gazebo and, you know, an agreement, and I know, you know, you made the comment that the borough's gone after this before, what have you. I think that there was discussion about moving forward on anything that the borough agrees to do, that you will do some sort of an agreement. And yeah, maybe if that's how you're gonna hold people accountable to, you know, making sure that they're gonna maintain it and the borough's not gonna be responsible. But I keep hearing this and hearing that, you know, that's on the borough. You have to present to whoever it may be that, you know, you're gonna require an agreement. And they sign it or they don't get it. So I think that's something that you do have to put in place with anything. You talk about the benches, yeah, you talk about, you know, the rain barrels, whatever, I don't know. Were there written agreements there? Nobody seems to be able to remember or find them. But maybe moving forward, make sure that you have them and you won't have that issue. I have a question regarding the communications by consent. Number 1, was that pulled? I'm a little confused. I think
It was approved with the, and it was approved without a,
without the fee waiver, okay. All right, and I think that's it for tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Ms. Francis?
Good evening, Nikki Francis, 65 Division Street. I'm actually here on behalf of the Municipal Alliance as the new Alliance Coordinator. You have not had an Alliance Coordinator in your town for over a year, and I'm here, and at our last meeting, we just really had a very serious discussion. I know that we have already approved the ordinance for cannabis sales in our town, but we want to make sure that the council's aware that there are some things that we really need to think about as we're moving forward and accepting these licenses, especially as we are a walking town, and a lot of our youth will be walking past this, and we want to make sure that we're giving the right information and we're doing the right things by the community.
Thank you. Mr. Lane?
Secondly, I want to say a very positive word about the condition of the sandy beaches on the Keyport waterfront. The Veteran Park area, the beaches have really, there's no big logs anymore. Same thing down in Beach Park, so that's a real positive step. One issue that's really close to my heart is the First Street crosswalks and the four-way stops. When are we going to get the crosswalks markings?
Trevor reported in his report that the county said that they hope to have the crosswalks done this summer.
Oh, so the county is going to do the crosswalks?
Is that not what you said?
That was for the no passing zone.
Oh, right, sorry. So the crosswalk part of the TBA, sorry, Mr. Lane. Do you have an update on that, Trevor?
Yeah, I did, should have included that in the report, but I did speak to the county about the four-way stop. They recently completed the traffic counts. So now they have the traffic counts done, they're going to be completing the report, and we'll submit that to the borough for review. I don't have a timeline on that, but I can follow up with the county on a timeline for that. As far as the crosswalks, we did submit the TAP project plans to the DOT for review and approval. That was for the preliminary design. We had submitted those after we had the meeting, the public meeting. Not heard back from the DOT yet, but I'll definitely follow up with the DOT for an update on that.
So are we going to get this job done before the winter sets in?
We were also, I mentioned at the previous meeting that now that the plan is in place, once we get the approval on the concept plan, we will not wait for the overall pedestrian improvement project to be completed before we take interim steps, including the crosswalks.
I just will reinforce what Mr. Merla said earlier. I frequently sit on my front porch, and we don't have 25 mile an hour consistently on First Street. We still have people ignoring, taking a turn off the Broad and stepping on the gas and passing on the double yellow line. It's not inconsistent. And that's why we really need the traffic calming of the four-way stops at Broad and First. We still don't have a crosswalk down there. We still have all the mothers with their baby strollers and laundry piled high going to the biggest laundromat in Keyport. It's really needs to be fixed. Utility poles on First Street and up on Prospect and other parts of town, just wrapped with idle cables. When are we going to clean this up?
I believe code enforcement is working with utility companies on that.
The answer is, when are we going to get it cleaned up?
I don't have an answer for you right now, Mr. Lane.
That's been the same answer for multiple meetings now, working with utilities.
That doesn't mean we're not working on it. Some utility companies that are dragging their feet. That's what in one meeting I did mention that there's pending state legislation so that there can be stricter fines for when they don't come out and do it.
What's the status? There were 3 ordinances introduced at the last council meeting. The Bethany Manor financing, the soil contamination in the road, and the lighting regulations. What happened to those 3 ordinances that were introduced?
They were introduced. I believe the public hearing has been, or they've been published with notice of public hearing at our next meeting.
I haven't seen them public notice.
They will be at the public hearing will be at the next meeting,
All right, so
August 16th.
you haven't published them yet?
No, it hasn't been published yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Mr. Grant?
J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. In regard to Mr. Ballou, not much more needs to be said about him. The man was terrific, outstanding. He's helped the borough of Keyport. He helped the borough of Keyport considerably. And I'll just have to say is rest in peace, Mr. Ballou, an outstanding man. And I'll miss him. Okay. Let's see. In regard to pedestrian safety, I usually walk this borough as much as I can. On morning walks and stuff like that. Beautiful borough every time I have. And like Mr. Kelsey said, pedestrian safety is important. Safety is important, period, and everything like that. And Madam Mayor, I have a question for you in regard to the Veterans Committee. When are we going to have another meeting soon?
We're actually doing a review of whether we need to submit another application or if we're just maintaining that status moving forward. So I have communications with our state to see if we have to reapply or do our status then. So if we already have it, we may just wait till the fall just to have a follow-up meeting on veteran topics in general. But since we already received the report after applying for it last year, I'm not sure. Especially with the summer months, I know members of the American Legion are taking a lot of time off. That's why we only did a couple weeks of the lowering of the flag ceremony and stuff. So.
Okay. And again, in regard to Mr. Ballou, again, rest in peace to him. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing no hands, can I vote to the public? Motion. All in favor? Aye.
Ms. London, can you read the closed session portion, please?
Yes, we have resolution R 22-177, resolution of the borough to go into a closed meeting not open to the public in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Whereas NJSA 10:4-12 provides that a closed session not open to the public may be held for certain specified purposes when authorized by resolution. And whereas it is necessary for the borough to discuss in a session not open to the public Matters concerning the litigation Borough of Keyport versus Bay Ridge Realty Corporation, and to discuss the status of cannabis business licenses. And whereas the mayor and council assembled in public session on July 19th and determined that a closed session not open to the public shall be held, and no action is anticipated with respect to these two items.
Have a motion. Have a motion going into closed session. All in favor? Aye. Comments to the police department. So can we have a pause for that for 2 minutes? Sure. I didn't know if I was supposed to go to a general public. I was going to raise my hand, but I'm not. All right. Can we put a pause on that? Yeah. Someone motion for that, please. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Chief.
Thank you. And thank you for your comments. I heard you loud and clear about enforcement. I do want to put out there, if nobody's going to put out there what we're doing, I want to say that we are in the process of rebuilding not only our manpower, but our CO2 program. We're in the rebuilding process. We are jumping through hoops for every single complaint you get. And I think that our council can back me up on this. We put out all our statistics. We've had over 200 motor vehicle stops, and they are accountable by a court. There's 3 ways you can open them, you can discover them, whatever you want to do. I can't make this up. It's by a court, over the police radio, which is a recorded police radio, and we also have it over Spillman, which is a documentation, a data system that we use to document our stops and motor vehicle summons. We have issued over 173 summons. That's a large amount of stops in a short period of time. We are out there enforcing, and I'd love to tell you we have equipment now that allows us to count exactly how many vehicles go down a street and what speed they're doing. It's not subject to interpretation or the curve of the hill and how it looks to you. So this is really expensive equipment that we are able to purchase thanks to the police committee and some hard work that we've been doing. We are in the process of rebuilding a lot, including our boots on the ground. SLEO2s are walking around now. Understand, it does take time and some patience with rebuilding these programs. We have, I don't want to say kids, but they are kids. We have officers in the academy now going through the academy so that they can come out as SLEO2s and they can walk in the posts that are your concerns. We hear every concern and we jump through hoops. We're happy to do whatever it takes to protect our citizens. However, we expect some cooperation back. Please, I urge you, it's not a bother. If you see this, it's also your obligation to call it into us immediately. It is an urgent matter when someone is running a light or if motorcycles are speeding through. Please call it in immediately. It routes us to the area. It allows us to collect those calls and document those calls so that when we do send it in to county for a look at that section as to how we can revamp it, how we can make it safer, what documentation do we have, we pull those calls. So help us help you, and that's what we're asking. We're asking for some cooperation back in those areas and some help. You guys are eyes and ears also out there. We don't hear a lot of positive feedback sometimes, and I want to tell you that we're out there doing it. We've said how many stops we have. We've said just the other day we were able to serve a search warrant, all done by Keyport Detective Bureau, and we got a very serious criminal off the street. We'll be posting that soon on Facebook, but it's probably one of the most severe kind. So we are working hard, and statistics that can't lie are out here, and we are willing to hear your concerns. So I just wanted to address some of the complaints that we have. Thank you, and thank you for relaying them to us.
If I could just add on to that, the conversations, sorry, I don't know what's going on, but the conversations with the chief and Councilperson Arano and I have had about enforcement, pedestrian safety is top priority of chief and of this department, and I am happy to see that we're finally getting, our SEL2s on the street, walking the beat. We've got people out there, so like Chief said, Catherine, sorry. Like Chief said, also, if you see something, say something. I guess that's the old phrase, right?
Thank you for the time, I appreciate it.
And I've re-motion to go into closed.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? This meeting is now adjourned to the public.